According to the US Census, over 3 million children, or 4.3% of the under 18 population, had a disability in 2019. This is an uptick of 0.4% from 2008. Kirsten Fowler knows all about dealing with the circumstances which comes with dealing in this arena. She's the author of Family, Faith, and Fragile X, the raw story of a mother with 3 special needs children. Fragile X syndrome is most commonly found in children with inherited autism. Fowler says that she's been able to find fulfillment in her children and that she's grateful for a loving husband who is her backbone and support system. She joined me this week to have a conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and making sure that her children and all special needs children have an equal shot at prosperity. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn about your book. You're raising 3 special needs kids and everything in between. Great to be with you this morning, and thank you so very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and I know you're the author of Family, Faith, and Fragile X, so I'm wondering if you could begin our conversation by telling me about the book, why you decided to write it and why it's so important to you.
Yes, so my book, Family, Faith, and Fragile X, just came out in July, and it's basically a memoir about my life raising children with Fragile X syndrome, which is similar to autism. And I began writing it because I realized that my day-to-day life isn't like other people's. And when I would tell people about my life, they were really surprised and about some of the things that I had to go through each day. And my husband was the one that really encouraged me to sit down and make the time to write this book. And I wrote it because I wanted other people to see and understand what it's like to, live the kind of life that I do, but also to bring others hope and help other parents not feel alone in their journey of raising special needs children.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a mother of 3 special needs kids, I'm fascinated to ask you how you define the term perseverance.
Oh, that's a good question. I would say it's, for me, taking things one day at a time, sometimes 1 hour at a time, and using that to, propel you to have that kind of hope, because you can't live day to day without hope. And I think part of that for me is my religion and my faith, which is why part of the title is Family, Faith, and Fragile X in my book, because I think that knowing that Christ and Heavenly Father are there for me helps me to persevere each day. And also the love that I have for my family and my children, it helps me to keep going and to continue to help them, even when it's really hard.
Yeah, and you also say that you have found some fulfillment in raising your children through your the chronic illness the mental health issues. So I'm wondering if you can tell me how you define fulfillment as well.
Yeah, so I do struggle with anxiety and depression. I also have different health issues, autoimmune issues and things. And so I think dealing with those while also raising children with special needs can be a really huge challenge, but I still find that fulfillment because my children make me laugh and they bring such joy to me and to others around them. Something about Fragile X is they're often very happy and they have a great sense of humor. And, it's just like other children, they bring that fulfillment in a different way. You might not see certain things come in the future for them like you would other children. But you find fulfillment and joy in the small things. For example, when my son started reading sight words for the first time, and what an accomplishment that was. And those are the kinds of things, those little things that you find that are fulfilling in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kristen, I don't know how much research you did on me, but I also was born with a disability. I have cerebral palsy, and one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast is to build a sense of community. So I'm wondering, from a parent perspective, how important do you think building a sense of community is when you raise special needs children and having a really supportive family? How important is that to you, and do you believe in general as well?
Well, for me, it's very, very important. That is a huge part of feeling accepted in the world and feeling like my children can succeed. Um, and I think that's for everybody, really, in general, to have a good community around you, people that understand, people that will support you and help you on your journey. So, yeah, I think that is a huge thing. We have my family that's really close. And because Fragile X is a genetic disability, there's several in my family that have it. And so we all kind of get it. And then we also have our community, like our neighborhood, people in my children's school, teachers. All of these people are so important to my life and to my children's lives. And they help make it better, really. And they bring that joy, that we've talked about, that fulfillment.
Yeah, and to that point, Kristen, I'm also big on the idea of inclusivity in all aspects of life for anyone with a disability. So, tell me, how do you think we can build an inclusive culture for children and others with disabilities as well?
Well, I'm hoping that in reading my book, people will have a greater understanding. And I think with more knowledge and understanding, that brings kind of that integration that people, when people understand, they're more willing to accept you, I think. And I think sometimes people don't know how to interact with other people that have disabilities, or sometimes they may be nervous around them. And we need to not be afraid to come out in the community and be a part of the community so that people can, get used to being around people that are different than them and enjoy all that they have to offer, because everybody has something to bring to life, to bring to the table. And I think that as we allow both children and adults to be in society like everybody else that when they have disabilities, there's just going to be more acceptance, more understanding, and we'll see how much they can all contribute to our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at the dynamics of your life, Kristen, I'm wondering if you could tell me how you define the term adaptability. What does that mean to you?
I think it sometimes adaptability can seem difficult because we come to a point where we see that we have to change, and adapting is change. It's making small or large changes in order to fit better into the world that we live in. And with my children, I think that adaptability is making changes, whether it's building a ramp so that my son can get his wheelchair into the house, something simple like that. Or it's changing my way of thinking so that I myself, as a parent, can be more accepting of my children's challenges and the things that they can or can't do, and realizing that I can make certain changes in my life to help them succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kristen, I know that you have an educational background. So when you look at your children's future in education, what's their greatest hope for their educational future as well?
I think for each of them, it's different because, just like any other kid, even though they each have Fragile X syndrome, they're all very different, and they're all on a spectrum of different abilities. So, for example, my daughter, she's in first grade, and she is able to go to a classroom with other regular peers at a regular school. And I'm hoping to see her go throughout the school system and be able to graduate high school, of course, with some extra help. Whereas with my son, he's a little bit more severe. He's in a special needs classroom that's more contained. And, I honestly don't know what to expect for him in the future, but I just like to take it one day at a time and realize that all of these accomplishments that he does each day are improvement to the future, for the future, and just kind of be hopeful but realistic in what the future holds.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Kristen, I'm also curious to ask you about your message to new parents who may have a child with a disability, and so your message of sort of inspiration and hope for them as they embark on this journey.
Yeah, so for other new parents that are getting into this, it can be devastating to find out, that your child has a certain diagnosis, whatever it may be. But I would just tell them that everything's going to be okay. You're going to love your child regardless. They're going to bring joy to your life regardless. And I'm hoping that when people do read my book, they'll see that although it's hard, there's different ways, it's like that adaptability that we talked about. There's different ways to find joy and to change so that you and your family can find that hope and happiness in day-to-day life.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kristen, I'm not sure if you knew this, but next month is actually National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And I know that your kids are still young, but when you look into the future and hope for their working future, how important do you think it is for folks with disabilities to be infused in the workforce? And what's your greatest hope for your kids as well?
Oh, I think it's so important that they get those opportunities to be a part of the workforce. And I think that it's becoming better, but it can definitely improve. And I think part of that is with society changing and being more accepting. I think that for my kids, I'm hoping that by the time they get a little bit older, there'll be some better resources. I feel like when my kids were born, there was a lot of different resources and a lot of push for early intervention. But I believe that there should be just as much research and resources for those who are going into the workforce later on as they get older. I think there needs to be more support in that area. So I hope that when my kids get older, that there will be people who will help and resources that will be there for them to be successful in whatever their capabilities may be in the workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at your kids, how proud are you of their sense of resilience and what inspires you every day to be their mom?
Oh, they are really resilient. I mean, they go through so much. I think sometimes as parents, we think, "Oh, this is hard for me," but really, for our children, they struggle with so many things, and yet my kids are so happy. They are so happy, and they find joy in life in the smallest things. And I just absolutely love that. And it helps me as their parent to realize that I can do anything as well, and I can help them. And I think that through their resiliency, that they find joy despite their difficult circumstances in life. It's an inspiration to me as a parent and also to others.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I know that you and your husband are linked at the hip in terms of creating a unified partnership when raising kids with disabilities. So tell me how important your husband has been in this process and why you think you are so close as a couple in that regard as well.
Oh, my husband is so important to me. I love him so much. He is just my world, and I'm so grateful for all that he has done and sticking with me and my kids through all the difficult times. Honestly, I don't know what I would do without him, and I respect those single mothers out there that raise special needs children alone because I don't know how I could do it. We have been married for almost 13 years now. And one thing that helps keep us close together is our faith. We have a match in that where we both believe in God. And I think that helps us to look to the future and realize that there's something bigger than us in place. And also, um, I mentioned in my book as well how important it is to go on dates and continue to date your spouse. And that's what my husband Jeremy, that's what we do is we go every weekend. We make sure that we do something, whether it's something simple like, staying at home and watching a movie after the kids are asleep, or actually getting a babysitter or having a caregiver come over and watching our kids so that we can go out for the night. And that's been so important to our marriage to help keep it alive, as well as good communication and being open with one another. We tell each other everything, and we're very open because every couple experiences hard times, and couples fight and couples argue and things, but it helps make you stronger as you get through those times and get through those hard times. And Jeremy and I have been through many hard times with our children, but we've, instead of letting it separate us, we've let it bring us together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also wondering your thoughts on sort of painting a picture or portrait of success for your kids because, I truly believe that everyone's portrait of success is different and everyone has, like you said earlier, something unique to offer to the world. So when you think of the concept of prosperity for your kids, I'm wondering what you think of the most.
I think for my kids, I mean, it's like I said before, it's different for each of them because each of their abilities are different. But I think overall, when I think of prosperity concerning my children, um, I think that if they have joy in their life, and if they are financially set and prepared, and they're safe, and there's people around them that love them, like that to me is the prosperity I want for my children, regardless of whatever else they do in their lives. I want them to feel loved, to feel joy, to have friendship, and to be, financially secure. Those are some things that I view as prosperity for my children in the future.
Yeah, and as a parent of special needs kids, I'm always, when I talk to anyone in the special needs community, I'm always interested to get their perspective on healthcare and how it can be improved for folks with disabilities and specifically children. So tell me, when you look at the state of the healthcare system, what do you like, what do you don't like, and what do you think needs to stand to be improved?
Well, for me and my family personally, I wish that more people, more doctors knew about Fragile X syndrome. Not many doctors really know. I've had to actually teach my doctors that I go to about Fragile X syndrome. And so that specifically for us has been an issue that I wish the doctors would be a little more informed in that area, because there are a few Fragile X clinics around the United States, but they're very far away from me. So, I've never been able to go to one. So I'd love to have more Fragile X clinics around. Um, but also, one thing that I've found with my son Isaac, especially, is he's able to go to a place where his psychologist and doctor and all, they have a whole team and they're all in the same building and they all work together. And I think that's huge because a lot of times when you have special needs kids, you've got several different doctors. And if they're not communicating with one another, it can lead to confusion and some, a lot of miscommunication. But I love that there are places where they can all the doctors can work together to help my son, and they're all on the same page. And I think that's made a huge difference in my son's life to help him get the best care possible.
Yeah, and you talked about being informed when it comes to medical reasons for children with special needs. So I'm curious to ask you about your message to parents of special needs children and how important it is to be informed, not only for medical appointments, but for other aspects of their lives as well.
Oh, I think it is so important. And I think it's something innate in parents when they find out that their child has a specific diagnosis, or even as they're trying to figure out maybe what their child has, they do that research. I think as parents, sometimes we become those experts even more than some of the doctors, because it really impacts our life and it's important to us, and our children are one of our number one priorities. And so we want to be informed about, every aspect so that we can help them succeed and help them to find joy. As we are informed, we can help them in school, we can help them in their doctor's appointments and in other areas of their lives. And so I think it's very important that we find out as much as we can about our children's disabilities, and just so that we can help advocate for them and make their lives better.
Yeah, and Kirsten, I'm wondering when you're having sort of one of those days where you just want to sort of reset yourself as a person, as a mother, as a wife, I'm curious, is there a motto of life that you rely on to get you through the good, the bad, and the ugly times?
Yes, I like the phrase "come what may" and love it. And I also love a phrase from a book that I've been reading about Fragile X, and it's "all in whatever." And so basically those things to me are, it means that, no matter what happens, whatever comes, whatever trials come, like, you can find joy and you can get through it, and it's all going to be okay.
Absolutely. And tell me, Kristen, my final question for you this morning has to do with your own personal and professional legacy and how you want that to be defined.
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. As far as professionally, I I love that I have been able to write this book. I've always wanted to be a writer, and I've had, lots of different experience being a writer. But most of all, I want to be a writer who has helped other people and inspired them and helped teach them. And I think for me personally, the legacy that I want to leave is as a mother, first and foremost. That's, one of the most important things to me is being a mother to my children. And I want to teach them love and respect and a love of God as well. And those are the things that I want to leave behind in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fowler, tell me if people want to get connected with you personally or get their hands on the book, what's the best way they can do that?
I would say the best way to get their hands on the book is to go to Amazon.com and check that out there. You can also get it at BarnesandNoble.com and on my own website, KirstenFowler.com.
Well, Kirsten, as someone with a disability myself, I know that diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that is important to the both of us, and I really want to thank you for having an engaging, authentic, and somewhat informative conversation. I want to thank you for trusting me with your story and for joining me this morning. It's most appreciated.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great to meet you and talk with you today.